Hey you guys, thanks for coming by, checking out the channel. Hey, I just wanted to talk a little bit about a couple of pocket knives I have on me. They're two that I really like a lot. I've got the Benchmade Osborne. It's a 940-2, and I've got a Spyderco Para 3. I've had the Spyderco for longer, and recently, not too long ago, acquired this Benchmade. But yeah, I've had them for a bit. Prior to both of these, I had a Benchmade mini griptilian that I would probably carry around more frequently. And yeah, so anyways, these are both very common models. The Para 3 from Spyderco, and then you got your Benchmade Osborne or 940 series. If you're out in the market, these are, for kind of a nicer knife between these two brands. If you want something, made in America, made in the US, these are both made in the United States, which is kind of cool. You may be looking at these. And so I just wanted to share, a little bit after carrying them, some of my thoughts on these. In terms of overall size, the length of these knives, they're going to be fairly close. The Benchmade is slightly longer overall. If we want to measure them, the Benchmade from the tip to the end, you're right at about 8 inches, just shy of 8 inches. The Spyderco, roughly 7, maybe and a quarter. So when they're both open, they're fairly close. Your Benchmade is a little bit larger. The blade itself is, they're very close as well, but the Benchmade blade's a tad bit longer, I would say. This one happens to be a serrated model. I normally don't go for serrated knives, to be honest, but that's just kind of what this one happens to be. So not too bad. It's useful in certain things, like cutting through ropes and stuff like that, like small ropes. It's kind of nice. But anyways, I've carried it around for a bunch. I will go ahead and tell you right off the bat, I think I've determined the Spyderco Para 3 is my favorite. There's something about it. It has a super satisfying, click whenever it opens. It just has a nice lockup feel to it. The weight distribution I prefer on the Spyderco Para 3. The Benchmade has a really clunky, heavy knife on it. Well, a blade, I should say, not knife, blade. Which isn't bad. I mean, it'll fling out quite nicely, but it just feels a little odd. The handle's very light, the blade's very heavy, whereas the Spyderco, the way they distribute it, something about it just feels extremely premium to me. And if you've handled these knives, you're probably going to know what I'm talking about. So yeah, overall carry, they're both very nice. The width difference is something I would also consider, and these are some reasons that the Spyderco, I'll leave it in the safe certain days. The blade width is very wide on that Spyderco. So if you have like some slim, jeans on or a lot of stuff in your pocket, something to consider. The blade, this little hump here, the way the blade's cut with the Spidey hole on it, the spider hole, it's quite a bit larger. You're almost probably half an inch of difference on there, whereas the actual size of the knife, it's very close. So that's something I would definitely consider on it. Even though I'm telling you right now that I think the Spyderco Para 3 is my favorite, I think Benchmade nailed it with this 940. To be quite honest, I think it might be, from what I've carried, at least one of the most perfect carry knives. Like the design is just phenomenal. The slimness is the reason I say that. It's extremely slim. It's very easy to operate one-handed. There's a number of ways you could do that. You could open it with the thumb stud. You can use the axis lock and fling it open. Fling it with the thumb stud. So many ways of opening that knife one-handed. So I think Benchmade did a phenomenal job, and I'm not knocking them in any way. I'd also recently used their Life Sharp service. I mailed this one and a mini griptilian in, and they did excellent. They sharpened them up great. They tuned them up. They got the pocket clips nice and tight, and you could tell they oiled them and cleaned them. And they sent them back in some of those little blue satin Benchmade bags, which was, I just threw them in the safe. I have no use for them, but it's kind of cool nonetheless. So great knife, definitely not knocking it in any ways. I'd absolutely recommend one. I'd say that just the slim factor of this is what really sells it. Now, going back to the Spyderco and why I think it's my favorite. For a while, I thought, the axis lock is so easy to operate one-handed. That's the downfall of the Spyderco, at least I thought. But the more I started to use it, this knife can, in some ways, almost just as easily be operated one hand. You can open this by just simply, slowly doing it. That's what some guys like to do. There's a million other ways. Some people flick it with their middle finger, and I'm not going to try any of that. It seems a little odd to me. I commonly will just kind of open it with a quick flick, and that works quite great. I'm not going to edit this video, so if I mistake some words, roll with me. But yeah, that's how I do it. I just flick it open there with the thumb hole. No problems at all with that. And to close it, this is how I used to close it. I just kind of push it in with my hand, or, you know, if I was fishing or something and had my other hand full, I'd push that and just kind of close it on the edge of my jeans, you know. I've recently found another way. Honestly, the way this lock is, you can just push that, the blade will pretty much close itself. If you hold it a little bit longer, it will completely close itself, actually. See there? So this knife can easily be operated one-handed, no problems at all. I mean, I really don't see any problems with that. So, but yeah, it's mainly just the feel of the knife. I like the weight distribution better. In terms of cutting, I do a lot of fishing. I use like braided line majority of the time, but my kids go with me, and I have some monofilament on there. The Benchmade, the 940, it'll cut through anything, no problem, as will the Spyderco. One thing I've kind of noticed, sometimes we'll get lazy, to be honest, and we go tie on a new lure, and we'll clip the line, you know, an inch or two above where the knot is. So we're left with a bunch of these, you know, hooks in our box that have little tiny knots tied to them of braid or monofilament. One thing, and this might sound stupid, but, you know, if you're like me and you don't always take the time to cut those off properly and throw them in your box and then later have a big collection of them, I like the Spyderco. Something with the blade, and both of these are incredibly sharp knives. This one's been recently sharpened. This one here has honestly not been used a whole lot. I had it in my safe for a couple of years and just didn't really use it up until recently I started. So it's extremely sharp. Really has not had much usage. One thing I like about that, like if you have it, like say in my example with the monofilament and the hooks, let's say if you have the hook and you lay it down on a piece of wood and you're going to slice off that little knot that was left over, something about this Spyderco, I just like the way it cuts through things with ease in other ways that I don't feel the Benchmade does it strongly. And some of that could just be the blade geometry, or maybe at the angles at which they're sharpened. I mean, it's hard to say. Not knocking Benchmade's sharpness in any way, though. I mean, this knife is crazy sharp. It cuts through stuff just fine, but just something about my personal day-to-day usage and carry on it, there's something I just like about the Spyderco. You know, they're both premium knives. I mean, you've got these here. It's got the Golden Colorado stamp on it, made in America, which I prefer. I know there's a lot of really nice import knives too, but there's just something to have, you know, about having a made in USA knife. I just, you know, I kind of like. Yeah, really good knife. So let me show you guys the width difference on the backs here. I don't know how well this is coming through on the video. I hope this is visible okay to everyone. Yeah, so you can kind of see, I mean, they're pretty close. You know, your pocket clip is a little bit fatter on that Spyderco. The body's probably a little fatter as well. While I've got it here, let me show you guys how this lockup mechanism actually works on this Spyderco PM3. So you can see that liner in there, and you basically just push that closed. Like I said, that has really grown on me. I can't remember what Spyderco actually calls this. I'll have to look it up. Some of you guys probably know, but that liner lock that locking mechanism has actually grown on me quite a bit. It's just easy, you know, it keeps your fingers out of the way when you go to close it. It's easy to get to when you're using it one-handed. That might be a little more challenging for the left-hand user. So if any of you guys are left-hand users and have one of these, let me know how that works with you. That could be one potential that I could see the axis lock making a bit more sense. You know, it's probably a little more easily used, ambidextrous, I would think. So, yeah, the axis lock is a fantastic mechanism. I mean, it's incredibly easy to work. You can use it in all sorts of ways, one-handed, no problem. I've heard some folks say online that the Spyderco, the little Spyderco hole, are nicer if you have on some gloves. I can completely see how that would be possible. So, but anyways, yeah, that's just a kind of a quick thing. I carry them both. I also rotate the Spyderco Mini Griptilian in as well. And all very good knives. So I've got some others as well. I've got an old Spyderco Tenacious. It's just like a complete beater that I never carry. And then I have a Kershaw Blackout. It's very old. I've had that knife for probably, oh man, probably 20 some odd years. Yeah, it's old. It's one of those assisted opening ones, but kind of a cool knife. I actually sent that one in probably 4 or 5 years ago. I had it for so long, it was beat up. Sent it into Kershaw, and I think I might have had to pay $5 or something for shipping. I can't remember. But Kershaw actually sent it out with a completely new blade, completely reworked everything on it. They made it nice, so I can't knock Kershaw at all. I haven't used any of the Spyderco sharpening services. So I can't really speak on that, but the Life Sharp service with Benchmade, I sent both of mine in. They did a great job. Turnaround time was less than 2 weeks. I know, a lot of people say, oh, you'll sharpen your own knives, and that's fine. But I thought I would use it. Why not? I'm going to send it in, let them fix them up. They tuned it up, and I'm completely pleased with the sharpness level. They didn't damage anything. Everything came back great. So if you have one of those knives, don't be afraid to send it into those guys. They took fine care on both of mine, no issues at all. And yeah, I mean, sharpening your own knife is great, but I happen to just own one of those really cheap, like Lansky sharpener sets, and I honestly don't like it. So I need to look into something better to start sharpening mine as well. But yeah, for now, I just use the Benchmade service and had great results with it. So, but yeah, if any of you guys have questions between these, or you want me to try to answer something, you can drop a comment and I'll do my best to if I can. Yeah, both excellent knives, and I highly recommend them both. That Spyderco just kind of speaks to me in some way I can't really put into words, and fantastic knife. So, well, guys, you have a great day. Drop me some comments. I'm curious what you guys are carrying out there. Have a good one.